Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Sorry, I'm so thirsty. How's your day been?
It's been pretty good. How about yours?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice and busy. The sun's finally starting to come out, which is nice.
Excellent.
So,
Same here. It's actually a pretty balmy day for Canada. So
good, I'm glad. Whereabouts in Canada are you?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I was meant to go there in uni, and then they were like, "Oh, no, sorry." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's
Great. One day I'll do
it. For sure.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us tonight.
Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, so a lot of our clubs have been reading The Maid this month. They are loving it. Yeah, I would love to talk to you about it if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect. I just wanted to start out by saying, what like a refreshing mystery to read. It was so nice to just have the protagonist be, she was so different, but in a way that was, it kind of made it like it was a normal person just researching the mystery and like solving it, and that kind of unreliable narrator-esque part. Yeah, bravo.
Thank you. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. For me, I'm the kind of reader and the kind of writer who, I like the mystery. I want to be able to put the reader into the feeling of the whodunit. I want you to be interested in collecting the clues.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not the heart and soul of this series, the first book or any of them. It's really about a journey of the spirit, this movement through a character's experience over time, where despite the murdery part, yes, there is that part, it actually exudes and leaves the reader with this feeling of hope,
Definitely.
So that's what I was trying to do.
And I think you did it so well. I think it is such a character-driven story. You're rooting for all of the right people and hoping that she would be drawn to the right people throughout the story. I don't want to give too much away to people who might not have read it yet, but they genuinely won't be disappointed. It was so, as I said before, it was just such a refreshing take on a murder mystery, and very in the essence of, like, do you call it Clue over in Canada?
Yes, you call it Cluedo, no?
Yeah. I don't know why we added the dough. I don't know what made it different. It was very Cluedo, and I adore that game. Yeah, I loved it. How would you describe The Maid to somebody who hasn't read it yet?
You're going to be entering the world of Molly, a maid, who she is I would say she's a pretty unique character. She has some trouble with social cues. But that doesn't stop her from being a truly exemplary employee at her job. And she loves to clean like nobody's business. And she's really, really good at it. But with her struggles with social cues, sometimes people interpret her wrong or don't really give her the latitude she needs in order to thrive. And in The Maid, she's on a regular work day when, lo and behold, she is trying to clean a room and she discovers Mr. Black. This is no spoiler. Mr. Black, who is very dead, as Molly would say, very dead in his hotel room bed. And because she's such an unusual character, unfortunately, all fingers start to point towards her as the culprit. But she works very hard in this novel to exonerate her good name.
Definitely. I think it's so nice to see a character who really, we know is kind of the embodiment of innocence because we're inside her head, but then seeing this external perspective of her and like this view of who she is, who they might not get her, and seeing the people who do get her, that's what's nice as well. Yeah, amazing. When you first came up with the concept, I read a little bit about it, so I know that you were in London, but what came first with the idea? Was it like, I know that you mentioned about thinking of the hotel in the past, was it always The Maid that came first?
It was a voice in my head. So you're right that I was in London. I call myself an accidental writer. I didn't mean to do this. I was working as an editor, as I did for countless years, 2 decades. And I was at the London Book Fair, which is an event that happens every year where editors, publishers gather. We talk about manuscripts. And I was staying at a hotel. I left. I went to a business meeting. I came back and I completely surprised the roommate who was cleaning my room. I opened the door and there she was. And this is really the embarrassing part. She had in her hands my disgusting, sweaty, inside out track pants because I'd gone for a run that morning and then realized, oh my God, I've got only a few minutes to get to my meeting. And I hurriedly changed them, threw them in a big hot mess on my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And she was holding them. She was, fixing the bed, making it nicely. And she was folding my disgusting pants when I opened that door. And, so I open the door, she looks at me, she's embarrassed. I look at her, I'm mortified. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, it is such an invisible and an intimate job to be a roommate. She'd been cleaning my room for days. So she knew everything about me. She knew the makeup I wore, the drugs I took, if someone had been in my bed or if it was me alone, she knew everything about me.
It's crazy. You don't think about that, do you?
No, you don't until it comes to your head. So somehow we never spoke in that moment, but I remember her vividly. And then a few days later, I was on my plane ride home when I started to hear a voice in my head. And it didn't sound like me, all sloppy like. It was very polished and precise. It sounded perhaps a little bit like Molly. And I wasn't planning to be a novelist, but I took the napkin from under my drink, which is the only paper I had, and I started to write what I was hearing. And that napkin turned out to be the prologue for The Maid.
Oh, I love that so much. It is that thing though, isn't it? It is such an unknown presence. And I think before reading it, you'd never really consider how much they know. Like you say, they know the drugs you take. They know, even like you said, the brand of makeup that you wear. It's kind of scary in a way. Was there ever any kind of I don't know, desire or inkling to go a different route to make it her, or was she always kind of
she was always the protagonist? I knew that. I call it the gift from the gods. Every writer gets a gift from the gods. It's the easy part of writing. And for me, it was that voice. And then, of course, the hard part is everything around that voice, what you do with it afterwards, how you find that craft and the mechanics of story that are going to propel you through. And for me, that choice was the murder mystery. That provided an engine and a drive to reveal character.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is funny, isn't it, how it just comes to you, especially if you hadn't considered doing it before. I mean, working with books and not considering writing, and then suddenly years later just having this kind of epiphany, it must have been a shock.
It was. I mean, I worked as a ghostwriter for sure, and I'd done a lot of collaborative writing in the past. But I loved my work. I had no grand intention the way so many people do. If I'm going to write a novel, no. But when the idea hit me, I knew I wanted to give it a try, and so then I really devoted myself from that napkin onwards to see if I could just, for one, please one reader, me, get to the end of that story and see if I liked what was on the page.
Yeah, I love that. So that's the important part, isn't it? It's writing something that you would like, because if you don't like it, then what else is there?
Well, it's also less intimidating, because let me tell you, writing a novel is a very intimidating, incredibly challenging thing to do. So for me, because, I knew the stakes involved, I definitely wanted to stay very quiet about what I was doing and take that pressure off my shoulders to be successful at it. I only had to please one person, myself. And that's how I alleviated my own imposter syndrome.
I love that. With the hotel that you stayed in, when you pictured the Regency Grand in your head as you were writing, how similar was it to this hotel in London, or did it change completely?
The hotel is, a pastiche. It's all kinds of hotels. And in fact, I really give very few details about the hotel. And what's amazing, and I do consider myself not a solo creator, but like I work in a team, and my team is the reader. So it's me in a partnership with my reader. And my job as a writer is to give you the bare minimum. And certainly I do that with the hotel. I just give you a few outlines. And then your job as a reader is to bring all your experiences of hotels and characters and, you know, the people who work in them, bring that all to the fore and complete the picture with your vast imagination. One of the things that I love the most when I meet readers is when they come up to me and they say, I know what hotel that was. And I'll say, great, which hotel is it? And, you know, one person will say, well, it's the Waldorf Astoria in New York. And I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. You've got it. And then the next person will come up to me and they'll say, no, I'm absolutely certain. I stayed there last summer. It's the Baglioni in London. And I'll be like, yes, you're right. Because there is no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Every person's imagination exquisitely filled out those details, so much so that the place felt real to them. And that just pleases me to no end that a reader can do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's such a character-driven story that everything else does just write itself in your head. You do just picture everything because you are so focused on these incredible characters that you're reading about, and they're all so different and also susceptible to kind of outward, what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word without giving too much away. Outside perceptions and forces, I suppose, that you do. Yeah, you just want what's best for the characters, and having it in the hotel and having her love her job so much is just it's secondary to the love for the characters, but also just as important, I think.
Right.
Yeah. If that makes sense. I feel like that was a huge ramble.
Not at all.
But yeah, so I should say, actually, I completely forgot. To everybody watching, feel free to ask some questions during the event. So if you go onto, down the bottom, there's a little square that's made up of circles. And in there, you have a Q&A option. And you'll be able to ask Nita some wonderful questions. And I will read them out throughout the night. So yeah, kept thinking. But yeah, if you could work for a hotel, what job do you think you would most like to do, and what era would it be in?
Oh my goodness. It's very hard not to say a maid. It is very, very hard. It is such a difficult job, but I love the fact that you're going into all those closed doors and learning all the secrets of people's domestic lives while they're on vacation, while they turn into a different kind of self in a hotel, right? So I think I couldn't help it, especially after writing this book. I would definitely say a maid in a hotel, and maybe sort of an Agatha Christie era, you know, hotel would be really, really great.
They must talk about so much. They must see some wild things.
Can you imagine, like, at lunchtime when they're, you know, having lunch together and they're like, you would not believe what I just saw in room 201.
It must be, I can't even begin to think about what they must see. Not even what they must see, but even just context clues about the people. And I don't know, I think if I was a maid, I'd have to play a little game where I'd try and work out who the kind of person was in the room just from their stuff. Is that intrusive? I don't know, but I feel like that's what I would want to do. So with Molly's voice just coming to you, because it was such a unique voice, and she had such like she held herself in such a unique way, which was, again, I can't reiterate enough how nice it was to read that perspective. How difficult was it to write it on paper from having it in your head?
I mean, it's always a challenge, right? Writing is never, ever easy. It's a very challenging pursuit. But the character was not a struggle for me. The character was somebody I knew. While I was writing it, I wasn't aware of where she was channeling from. It was only when I was done. And many years ago, when I was an editor, before I was an editor, I worked as a teacher. So I worked in a high school with special needs kids. And it was such a formative time, and I loved the job so much. These kids were exuberant and bright. They were unique. They were challenging. They were kind, they were compassionate, they were wild sometimes, but I adored them. And one of the things I used to do was like take them out on field trips, but not like, I don't mean like we'd go to the museum or whatever. Sometimes we would just go out and claim space. And we go to like the donut shop across the street from the school. And at the beginning, I thought we were doing this for the kids, you know, to get them used to public environments. But that's not actually how it was. I was wrong about that. We were doing that for everyone else.
Yeah.
Now, these kids, you know, to me, I didn't notice their differences the same way Gran doesn't notice Molly's differences. They don't stand out when you see somebody every day and when you're really, really close to them. But, you know, I had a kid who used to carry around a big stack of newspapers because he needed to have the past in his hands in order to feel safe. And I had another kid who rocked himself sort of to self-soothe. So, you know, if you were out in public, you might notice some of these differences. Now, most of the time, people out and about in the world treated these kids with the same respect that they would treat anyone else, except for the people who didn't. And let me tell you, I never forgot those people's. I never forgot any of those moments where I watched, you know, full-grown, cogent adults.
I was going to say it's definitely adults.
Yes, with so much prejudice, it was disgraceful.
Yeah.
But you know, the nice part was I got to watch my students behave with so much human dignity, to rise up, to protect themselves and each other, and to show a kind of grace. And that stuck with me too. And, you know, while I was writing, I was not aware of what I was doing. I really wasn't. But when I finished the book, I realized that I had created Molly as a kind of tribute to these characters. I'd taken all of the best qualities from all of these students I taught, and I gave them all to her. Yeah.
That's so lovely. I think it's so apparent, isn't it, in the book with her rules that she has. She sees the world in a completely different way, in a way that I think a lot of us just take for granted. We take how we perceive the world for granted. And I think it really becomes apparent when you see how the other characters treat her. And it also, on the same sense of these people stand out in real life for the way they treat people, the people who treat her with respect and with dignity really stand out in the book. And it's just so interesting to see, and how much you love the characters for that even more. Because you can tell who's treating her right, and you can tell who's perhaps taking advantage of how she perceives things. But yeah, I think that's so beautiful. I love that you'd go to the donut shop. That's such a cool yeah. I love that. Also, the newspapers are so sweet.
I know. I'm also dating myself. You can tell how long ago that was. You know, not that many people really get a daily newspaper.
You still see them. They're still potting about somewhere. Maybe not a stack in one, though.
No.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions from the audience, I think.
Yes,
Let's
please.
have a look. So, Maria says, in your earliest post, you mentioned that there will be some new characters in your new book. Could you tell us anything about them?
I sure can. So in The Maid's Secret, which is that purple book right behind me, you know, there is a whole host of characters that are new. You will, of course, meet Molly in a more steady place than the maid. She has, you know, Juan Manuel by her side by this point, and, you know, her life is going pretty well, I would say. But what happens is that there is a heist in the present tense that happens in the hotel. It is not a murder mystery, because how many people can die in one hotel before it starts to strain believability? All right, who would go there after too many?
Think it's got to be the unluckiest hotel in the world.
Absolutely. So, you know, what happens is there's an Antiques Roadshow that happens at the hotel, and Molly has risen through the ranks. She's now head maid and in charge of special events in the tea room. And the roadshow comes, and they're going to shoot an episode of this show called Hidden Treasures, which seems a lot like the Antiques Roadshow. And so we'll meet some characters around that, all the cast and crew that are shooting the show.
So fun.
And the staff of the hotel are invited to bring along anything they want appraised, any old items, any antiques. And Molly brings in a few of her grand's things, and lo and behold, one thing, and I bet you, those of you who have read The Maid, you can guess what thing that might be. Turns out not to be a fake, but to be the real thing. And no sooner does Molly go from rags to riches, a multimillionaire, is that item stolen in front of everybody's eyes, and it disappears. So there we go. That's in the present tense. In the past tense, we get to meet Gran. So to the question of character, you know, Gran has been in the background through all 3 books before this, but we've never heard from her. We've never heard her word or her side of the story. So in this novel, we go back to the past and we get to hear directly from Gran. So as Molly goes from rags to riches in the present tense, we get the backstory of Gran's life, where she started out as a very wealthy woman, very rich indeed. And of course, her life changes in some seismic ways. It is an epic Downton Abbey-esque love story. I'm going to let you guess who that person is, you know, in that rich, wealthy mansion where she grew up. Who is that man that she falls in love with madly, head over heels? So we have that heist novel in the front, and in the back, this really epic love story.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait. I genuinely can't wait. I am without, you know, saying too much, the bit where it was alluded to maybe someone being something towards the end, I was over the moon, completely over the moon. I was like, please, you can't drop that in there and not have it be a thing, please. So cute, because arguably the best character, I would say, one of my favorites at least, alongside Juan Manuel. What an amazing guy. Yeah, just amazing. You write men so well. I actually like
only they were such good eggs, but unfortunately they're not all like that. Such as me and Mr. Black.
Yes, exactly.
But let us not forget that the good eggs win in the end, right?
Yes, definitely. I think it's so interesting having the 2 stories kind of cross paths as well. I need to stop saying so.
I know much. You're trying so hard not to get
I want to gush all about it, and I'm just trying so hard.
Some listeners out there going, "What is she talking about?" And others are like, "I know exactly what she's talking about."
What on earth is that? No, I am. Yes, it was full of so many amazing plot twists, and where you kind of knew where things were going. It was the ride that you were taken on was so interesting, and seeing the people that you kind of knew were the good guys kind of come out of their shell a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
It's so difficult not to say anything. Was there anything you drew in particular inspiration from in terms of like the world dynamic and the characters aside from your teacher experience, like literary or real? And were there any personal experiences that you drew inspiration from?
Well, there's inspiration everywhere. You know, for such a hyper-real book that seems almost to have a fairy tale quality, it's incredible how afterwards you start to realize how much reality you injected into this world. Mm-hmm. So when I was an editor for many, many years, I walked by the same hotel year after year on my way to work and on my way home. So it's in downtown Toronto, and it's a fairly well-known hotel. And it has, you know, red carpeted stairs on the outside and a sort of gold portico, and it's very grand. And it has a doorman who is no longer there. There's a new doorman, but in all of those years, that man worked there every day. I saw him in the morning when I went to work, and I saw him when I went home every single day. Mm-hmm. And we never spoke, but he would tip his hat at me every day. We both recognized each other. And I used to think to myself, oh my God, he's like the king of the street. He's looking out for everybody. And I saw him navigate some very difficult things, you know, limos pulling up and rock stars coming out and vomiting on the sidewalk, and, you know, very entitled ladies with their shopping bags, flinging them at him and expecting him to carry them up to their room. And, you know, just really some appalling behavior. And he behaved always with this solidity, you know, this dignity to him.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you know, wouldn't it be nice if he were your grandfather? Like, to have somebody like that in your life. You know, he just had something about him. He was so warm and so protective. And so I gave him someone to look after. I gave him Molly the maid in the hotel, a young maid who he could really keep an eye on, and who he would deeply understand that despite her differences, she deserves the same respect as everyone else, and that he could help her thrive. So like, that's sort of where, you know, the personal and the fictional sort of blend, for instance.
Isn't it so interesting how much people have impact on stories and they'll never know?
I know. I always expect to open my email one day and find either a message from that maid, or from that doorman at that hotel, and say, hey, you took me from real life and you put me in your fiction.
It's just so interesting, because it's like, I wonder if they read it, whether they would even know that it was them.
I don't know.
Probably not, really.
It's amazing that people don't recognize themselves in fiction.
Yeah. No, I feel like you have one way of looking at yourself, and you in somebody else's eyes is completely different.
Yeah.
And it's kind of so nice to see those people who do make an impact in the smallest way, that have the largest impact in the end. See them be immortalized a little bit, just a little bit of that nice moment. And the inspiration that can come from these tiny gestures. I love it so much. Anonymous says, where did it go? Sorry. Why is it that you chose not to give descriptions of physical characteristics of the characters?
I do give some, but again, I give very minimal. So Molly has very porcelain, pale skin, and she has black hair and a bob. And I give you 2 details of most of the characters. And that is because I want you to participate. I don't see myself as a solo creator. I see myself in a partnership with my reader. My goal is to give you the bare minimum, and you fill all the rest in with your vivid imagination. So that is really why that I'm not spending a page on describing every single character. I'm relying on you, your understanding of the mystery tropes of the people in hotels, of, you know, just human life, and to bring your vivid imaginations to the fore in the completion of the book.
I love that. I think as well, it gives you so much freedom, because it is such a familiar setting that it really brings your own experience into the book as well. Because I feel like even with a line of description about what a character looks like or what they're wearing, you know who they are. You've got them in your head. You can see them. And who's to say that the person that you thought of first isn't the correct person? Yeah, I love the idea of collaborating with readers as well. I think that's such a nice touch to the book. Yeah, I love that. Samantha says, did you always plan to make Molly neurodivergent?
You know, I never call her that. But of course, I don't think it's irrational to think she is. She's just never been tested. You know, she comes from a background where access to, you know, the kind of testing would be incredibly difficult for her. So she doesn't even know necessarily. She does know the important thing, that she is different, and that her gran helps her navigate through the world. And yes, I was aware of the fact that her brain operated in ways that were distinct from, you know, a lot of people. But what I wanted to create was a character whose differences, we come to learn over time, are actually her greatest strength. You know, when we start the book, there are moments, I think, that challenge the reader, where you know, you might want to shake her by the shoulders and go, why don't you see the way I see? And I think that is a common human reaction. And of course, in my little story I told you before, it was a reaction that I saw on high in reactivity against some of the students that I used to teach. But as we move through the story, the goal is for you to sit behind Molly's eyes, to experience the world as she does. You know, and hopefully living as her means you come to understand her more, and hopefully not only come to love her, but come to some sort of feeling of compassion and understanding for those who are different. And surprise, surprise, we're all different in different ways.
I think it's so nice as well I feel like she represents a lot of different kinds of people. And then there are those moments, aren't there, where it's like when you have a best friend and the guy she likes is so bad. You just want to be like,
shake by the shoulders.
Yes. He's awful. Get away. Run. And you just kind of have to wait for them to figure it out.
It's exactly like that. Yes.
Not in the way that Molly did, but I would hope. But yeah, Fove says, my son is autistic. Although you do not explicitly label Molly as neurodiverse, you created a perfect character which depicts such traits. Thank you for doing this so well. I love Molly's grandma and her words of wisdom. Were you inspired by anyone in particular?
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot to me, because I think you have a particular understanding of what I was trying to do with Molly's character. And yes, Gran is definitely based on someone or a few people. She's a composite character, but the person she's most inspired by was my own mother. My mother was the kind of person who gave unconditional love to everyone in her sphere, her family most of all, her kids unconditionally, and all the people who surrounded her in her community. She used to talk to me in little aphorisms, you know, little sayings, and I didn't appreciate them when I had her. She died several years ago, quite a few years ago now. And something that I experienced as that horrible grief where I thought I would never have my mother ever again. She was gone forever. I could not have been more wrong. What I learned, and I think what Molly gets to experience in the book, is that we have the power to distill voices that are very important to us and keep them with us. I hear my mother all the time. I hear her in my head all the time. In moments where I need her the most, she is there and she speaks to me. Sometimes too much.
She's like, I get it, okay.
No. And to me, this is the greatest mystery of all. Not just, you know, the actual whodunit, but that sometimes beyond death, somebody can have more of an influence, more of a distilled presence in your life than they did even in reality. And what a mystery and what a gift.
Absolutely. Again, it comes down to that kind of the little moments of immortalization throughout your life, not even in fiction or anything, but just in moments in your life where that person completely lives on, and they will always live on in everything that you do. I mean, you are that person. You know, the way you were brought up is down to that person. And there are so many quirks and traits that I think people adopt and they don't realize that they've adopted them. And sometimes it's pointed out. I remember my friend was like, oh, you sounded like your mum then. And I was like, what do you mean? And I think
you don't hear it, right?
I was like, I said something along the lines of, oh, and they were like, yeah, you sounded exactly like your mum when you said that. And I was like, what does that even mean? How? And I do think it just, you genuinely don't know that they're there, but they always are in ways that you don't realize. Exactly. It's so beautiful. It is, like you say, one of life's greatest mysteries, but also one of the nicest ones, I would say.
Indeed.
When it came to building the story, did you always know what was going to happen and who everyone was, or what came first and what came last?
I knew a few things. Always, with all 4 books in the series, I know the big twists that happen at the end. Mm-hmm. I always know them. I don't know anything else, though. So for me, there's a kind of magic inspiration from the knowing and the knowing nothing. That is, for me, a creative place where I can begin. I know I've got those scenes that I could write today at the end of the book. I know them intimately when I start. How the heck I'm going to get there, I haven't a clue.
No, not
And
at
so
all.
that sense of unknowing and knowing, those two things sort of create a sense of discovery and an excitement about journeying into the forest of the narrative.
Yeah, amazing. And was there a particular moment in the book that you really struggled to come to, that just kind of knotted everything together?
You know, some of the intricacies of moving through the hotel and finding out who was who and how to place those things at the right time and moments. Mysteries are tricky with like that, because, you know, I know that you as the reader are collecting all the breadcrumbs. And the question is, when do I give you this one? When do I give you that one? So there's a lot of careful thought and planning that goes into that. And then a lot of moving things around once you have a first draft and you realize, no, I said too much there, didn't say enough here, nobody's following this. You know, you really have to mete out those red herrings and the clues so that the reader stays engaged.
Definitely. When it came to planning it, did you plan it all out before you started writing it, or did you kind of plan the majority?
I'm a sort of a mix between a pantser and a planner. So the pantser being fly by the seat of your pants. Yeah. So I think I'm a plantser. I'm a bit of both. I know the big twists and turns. I sort of know a few scenes ahead where I'm going, but sometimes I don't know moment to moment how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's something nice about kind of going in knowing what you want to do, but also figuring out the journey as you're doing it. I think that's really nice. Layla says, what would your best piece of advice be for anyone who would like to write a novel?
It's probably not going to be very popular advice, but I give it all the time and I truly mean it. One of the best things you can do if you want to become a writer is read. And what I mean by read is read voraciously, and read not only for entertainment, which, you know, is fine. I love to read for entertainment. I love to get lost in a book. There's nothing like it. But also, after you've read to entertain yourself, after you've been lost in a book, go back and try to dissect what worked and why. Also, look at books you did not like. Why didn't you like them? What was wrong with them? Can you figure out what was missing for you to go on that journey with that particular story or that writer? I think really talented writers are really good readers, and you can learn so much by really tracking the craft and the art of narrative in your reading.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's such a nice piece of advice as well, though, because you wouldn't bake a cake without ever having had one.
Right. Exactly.
Or, I mean, there's loads of kind of ways to look at that in terms of other careers or anything like that. But no, it makes so much sense. Of course you have to read. Luckily, I think everyone here loves to read. I would hope. But yeah, I like that a lot. I've not heard that one before, but it makes so much sense. Yeah. Is there any genre of writing that you haven't explored yet that you would want to?
I really love mysteries. So whatever I do, I think will always have a component of mystery. But I consider myself a Frankenstein writer. And what I mean by that is I love to combine genres. I loved mixed genre books. Those are the books that I used to love to edit, and those are the books I love to read, and those are the books that I write. Yeah. So whatever I do next, and certainly what I'm working on now, will be mixed genre. Mystery will always be at the core of what I do, but I will combine that mystery with something else in the background. Yeah.
And on the same token, is there any genre that you really would not want to dip your toe into?
Horror.
Really?
Look at this book. There isn't a drop of blood.
No, that's so true. I just thought mystery and horror would tie in nicely.
All of the violence happens off stage. Like, there is a lot of darkness, but we don't have to look at it. We just see the consequences and we focus on character. And that is apropos. For me, You know, I'm trying to alleviate the burden on the reader's shoulder so that you can go through, not by being blind to the darkness in the world, you can go through it and feel more equipped at the end of the novel to go out with hope and a spirit of, you know, heart into the world, you know? So horror, not my genre. I really respect the writers who do it well. I struggle sometimes to read it because I'm just such a scaredy cat, but I would have a really hard time writing it.
Yeah, I think it's so hit and miss as well, because it's such a vast genre. There are so many different elements that can go into it, and I feel like there are certain parts of horror that I enjoy, and then other parts that I wouldn't touch, for different reasons. I think if there was a big book about spiders, I would cry. I don't want to read that. Please don't ever write that book. I will say thank you for your time and effort, but politely no thank you.
See, a little bit like Molly, because she doesn't like spiders either.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah,
this video, it was this people lived in this they renovated an old school bus and they drove it around. They were like, oh, we've got a jumping spider that joined us, and it was like, oh, so cute, look, it's just like exploring. Oh, I couldn't do it. Everyone was saying, oh, it's so adorable. I was like,
you just wrote your own horror short story. You trapped in a school bus with a jumping spider. What's gonna happen next?
Oh, awful. I think the whole book would be me in the corner like this, just crying. God forbid I ever move out on my own, because I don't know what I'll do. I'll just let them take over the house. It's their house now. Not me. I'll have to call my parents and be like, please come round.
Rescue me.
Yeah, I'll just be like, no, it's because I want to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Oh, by the way, when you're here, there's this giant spider in the corner. On the back of that, somewhat, not the spider story, but on the back of it being a light book. How easy was it for a mystery, particularly a murder mystery? How easy was it to focus on the lightness and kind of, because murder's gritty, right? I feel like if it happened in real life, you would be so distraught. So I always think this when I read like a cozy mystery. It's so interesting to feel your heart warming when you're reading about somebody being dead. How easy was it to kind of bring that feeling through this book? Was it easy because of the characters, or?
You know, I really love to combine genres. So I set myself the challenge of trying to write, on the one hand, a murder mystery, murder, not very cozy. On the other hand, a journey of the spirit with lots of heart, where you grow, your heart actually grows, hopefully, if I've done my job right, by 2 sizes when you get to the end of the book. And that dichotomy, that spread of 2 things that seemingly shouldn't go together very well in a singular book. That is the challenge. That's why mixed genres are so exciting, because they present the writer with a unique challenge and a new kind of tapestry, a narrative or genre tapestry to solve. It's a great, wonderful equational problem. And so for me, that balance of light and dark was something that I was always working with. How do I keep the reader feeling that, come on, you can keep going here. There's a reason. You've got something to root for, I promise you, even in those really dark moments, those moments where Molly finds herself deeply alone and, she struggles. Or those moments where, like you just said, Molly is approaching somebody and you're like, this is not the guy you should be falling for, honey.
Yeah.
I want to shake you by the shoulders and tell you walk away. But no, oh no. Unfortunately, Molly, as like most of us, makes some mistakes in life and sometimes cannot tell the difference between a serial charmer who's a faker and a liar and a prince.
Yeah. Easy mistake to make, I would say.
It happens.
We've all been there. No, I love that. I think it is. I think especially with like this idea of like found family as well, and seeing, you know, these relationships bloom on the wake of something so awful is so nice to read. So nice to read. I mean, I will always love found family, because it's just, like you said, it makes your heart twice as big. Yeah, no, amazing. I think genre crossing. What are two genres? Say mystery is out. Two genres that shouldn't work together, but you think could.
Oh, well, thriller and romance.
Mm-hmm.
I
Would you
mean,
do it from the perspective of two killers falling in love, or would it be?
I think that's been done actually a couple of years ago in a pretty good book. But yeah, I think you know, the thing about storytelling is that they're like containers, you know, and sometimes you can put one inside the other and they fit perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's all about the art of finding the right container that fits in the other. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there must be some wacky genre mixes out there that really do work. I'm interested to go and find them. Yeah, my eyes have been opened a bit more. Maria says, will we get to see more about Angela and her decisions? Sorry, I don't want to spoil with the question. Haha.
About Angela?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, you will. You will start to see more about Angela in the future. Yes, you will. That's all I can say.
It's so hard, isn't it? It's so difficult. Amazing. Very good news. Dominique says, will we ever see a movie adaptation of The Maid?
Yes, it's entirely possible. I can't say too much, but I can say that there's a new option that is going well, and yeah, I'm being very vague and weird because I can't say anything. But my hope is that we see this on the screen in a couple of years. It would be so fun. For me, the fun part will be seeing the exact opposite of the book, where I only give you tiny little details. When we see something on a screen, we get everything. It's full Technicolor. Every detail is revealed to us. And for me, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's so much that goes into like movies and TV shows. Like every little thing that you see on the screen, somebody has put there on purpose.
Exactly.
That would be really interesting, really. And also it's always that fun feeling of, what do they look like? Because I know what they look like in here, but what do they look like there?
Right.
Very exciting. I'll move on so we don't say anything more about it.
Yes. All I can say is maybe we'll come back and we'll do this again with some popcorn if it ever happens.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Sounds wonderful. We can have like a little shared screen.
Exactly.
Lydia says, will there be anything after the Molly the Maid series? Please don't stop writing. These books were like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you very much. I am working on something else, and it is a combo genre of mystery thriller. In some ways it's quite different from this, and in some ways it's the same. So it is about an older woman. So she's in her 80s and she lives in cottage country by a lake, and her grandkids come up to visit her and they explore the property and all the forest around it. And they come back with something that they found there that was not supposed to ever be found. And Jane, the protagonist, has been hiding a lot about her past. And we are then transported to her past when she was a teenager in the 1950s, living on the lake with this summer set of people all around her and the glory of that wonderful summer stretching long. And something happened. It's a novel about wilderness and nature and how it can both harm and heal. It's a story of coming of age and new love in the summertime. It's a story about how, you know, we can look at the past, you know, through a different lens when we're older, and we can see things we never saw before. And when we revisit like that, we can somehow have closure, but not always how we thought we would. So that's what it's about. And you know, the big similarity, although it is very different and it is not a cozy, is that it's a character. You know, my goal is to, again, seat you behind that character's eyes. And she's prickly. She's not always lovable at the beginning. But as you move through that journey of this mystery thriller set in the present and the past, hopefully, if I do my job right, you come to understand her and you come to love her.
Amazing. I, for one, my favorite protagonists are always the older lady. If there's a book where the older lady is the main character, it is my favorite thing in the world. So I'm sold already. You've got one order.
Yeah.
One order for me.
Well, see, that's because you're an old soul, right?
That's true. I definitely am.
Like
I'm
Molly, like me. We're all, and probably a few of our readers out there too.
I think so for sure. I love an old lady detective as well.
Ditto.
Amazing.
Can't get enough of it. Bring on Miss Marple. Love her.
Exactly. I love it. I'm so excited already. Have you finished it, or is it in the
No. I couldn't contain myself if I were finished. No. Messy middle. Just finding my way. And like I said before, it's like I know a few things, but oh my goodness, I don't know much. And that is part of the discovery process that keeps me writing.
Yeah, when you kind of do link things together and you go, oh my goodness, that's it. What does that feel like? I imagine it's an amazing feeling.
It is merely and only the best feeling in the world. It must be addictive. It must be. Because the torture of writing, when you don't know, when you know you wrote something bad, when everything you write sucks, is enough to drive you away from doing it until you get one of those moments again. And it is the best, exciting high, the most natural high you could ever have. And I think that's why writers keep doing what we do.
Absolutely. And I think it's not something that can be forced either, is it? It does just come to you.
You can't force it. If you force it, it will move further away.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. When you were working as an editor, did you ever have an inkling, and doing ghostwriting as well, that you did want to publish your own work? Or was it when you went to London and that kind of sprung?
You know, I had passing thoughts about it. But I wasn't like, oh, this is my next step. This is going to be my next iteration. No. I had no such plans.
Yeah.
It was really the visit from Molly, this voice in my head where I'm like, okay, now's the time. This is the story. Maybe you can do this. If you can't, no one needs to know.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I think that you hear so often about and it's always lovely when it's like a childhood dream come true and this, but it is also so nice to somewhat stumble upon it, I suppose, for lack of a better word. But yeah, you were born to do it.
Well, thank you. I feel like I understudied for 20 very long years in publishing, and I always credit the writers that I work with, many of whose books are right behind me, for teaching me everything I ever needed to know about story and craft. And so when I did actually decide to do this, I was tremendously prepared, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, I love that. I am. Phoebe says, not a question, but I loved the part where Molly was asked why she came to work so soon after her gran passing away, and she responded by explaining that of course she did. She's not the one who died. Amazing how you came up with such lines. Bravo.
Oh, thank you. Unusual, right?
Yeah.
but also an understandable reaction. I mean, I've had people tell me, in moments where, something horrible happened over the last few years, like, well, you should cancel. You shouldn't go to that event you have, or you should stop writing your book, or you should do this, no, that's, for me, not so unlike Molly. In those moments where, I'm dealing with hardship or a loss, I need the steadiness of something familiar, like work, to keep me going, to give me a sense of momentum and light, you know, in those moments.
Definitely. I think there's something I've come to realize as I've gotten older is the admin of death is taxing, but you need to, like, life keeps on going.
And it does, which is a gift and a curse, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's and you need to keep on living for, you know, however much it does hurt. It's you know, they wouldn't want you to stop.
No,
you need that to keep you going as well. You need people around you. You need that kind of support and something to throw yourself into to even just get you back on your feet, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, I just love the way she worded it. Amazing.
Well, she's so alone at that moment too, right?
Yeah.
All she has left is her job.
Yeah.
You know, Bran was everything to her. Her moral compass, her hope, her source of love, inspiration, her friend. All she has is that job. So of course she just, you know, keeps herself bound to it, holds on to it tighter than ever before.
Yeah, definitely. It's what's keeping her grounded, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But also letting her escape for a bit as well.
Yep.
A bit of both. What can you, this isn't really much of a question, I was going to tell me about your writing routine. Do you have a particular writing routine that you follow?
I do. I tend to get up very early and write. I like that early morning writing time because my brain feels freshest on the one hand, and on the other, those terrible voices that say, you can't do this, you don't know what you're doing, you're not very good, you'll never write another book, you're awful, you should stop now. All of those voices, I could go on and on. They're still asleep.
Yes.
They're like, they're on the pillow, those nasty little things, and they're curled up almost like spiders. And they're just dormant. Yeah. So when I write in the early morning, there are no interruptions, and I feel I have this sort of freedom. I can dance on the page because I'm not hounded by my own, you know, worst fears.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think there's something to be said about letting them just sleep for a little bit longer.
Yep. Bye-bye. Just
have a nap. Have a nap. It's fine.
Exactly. Not all day.
Yeah.
Just if you never woke up ever again, I would not miss you.
Take extended annual leave.
Exactly. Exactly. Doesn't quite work that way though, does it?
No, it doesn't. They're like the hardest workers that you know. They're like Molly. They just want to come back to work.
They always come back to hunt you.
That co-worker that won't leave you alone.
Exactly. Like, the Cheryls, right?
Yeah. By the water fountain, just waiting. Waiting for the opportune moment. Exactly. Or the most inopportune moment, even.
Let me tell you all the things I don't like about you.
Worded in a way that makes it feel like they're doing it out of like a nice way.
Yeah, I call those complissalts.
Yeah. Oh, I hate complissalts.
Me too. They're very confusing.
They are, because you're like, thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm hurting.
Yeah, I don't know. I once got told I was putting makeup on. It's like, you look so much better without makeup. And I was like,
oh, there you go. That's a complissalt. How do you take that?
I'm so confused. What do you mean? Thank you.
Yeah.
You could have told me in a different way.
That is not the, or just not at all.
Yeah, you just could have kept it to
You're
yourself.
just lovely no matter what you do. Makeup, no makeup.
Exactly. It's like, oh, that's really kind. Thank you. Now you can go on extended annual leave.
Exactly.
When it came to publication, what was your process in terms of getting your book published?
Well, as I mentioned, I hid away to write this novel. I didn't tell anyone. And when I say I didn't tell anyone, I really mean that quite literally, a la Molly. I did not tell my family. I did not tell my partner. The last people I would have told are people that I worked with in the publishing industry because, oh my goodness, the stigma of, you know, becoming an editor or working in publishing and then turning to the other side to become a writer. It was terrifying. So, you know, only when I was fully done the book did I decide, okay, I think I did something here. I think it's all right. And I think I'm going to try and get it published. So the first step, of course, is finding an agent. In my case, I knew all the agents. International. And that was terrifying. Most people think, oh, well, look at the head. Like, you just had like this huge step up compared to most people. Oh, no. I had fear. I had so much fear because I thought, if this isn't good enough, I have to continue to work with these agents who say that my work is lovely, which is a euphemism for it really sucks and I can't take it on. So that was very frightening to me. So I did it selectively and carefully. And, I did get my dream agent, as it turns out, Madeline Milburn, who's a UK agent, and somebody who I'd worked with before and whose style I loved, and who is really one of the key people who brought a very important book to me in this series to life. And that was Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine.
Yeah.
Which again is a prickly character. It's a kind of character where we ask ourselves, where the writer asks themselves and then asks the reader, how do you love a cactus? How do you hug one? How do you create a character who is so prickly that you come to love? And I learned so much from reading that book and from studying it. And Madeline Milburn was the first discoverer of that manuscript. So I knew she understood the world that I was working in, the kind of character I wanted to bring to people. And so with a lot of fear in my heart, I sent it to her. And then, a week later I heard back. And that was in all of the experience I've had, receiving a quote from Stephen King, movies being sold, New York Times best-selling, all of the things that have happened, that moment to me is still the pinnacle moment in everything.
Yeah.
I fell to my knees when she said, I love it. I get it. I want to represent this book.
Oh,
I fell to my knees, literally. Only time I've ever done that in my life.
It's also
I knew what I had. I knew I'd done something. I knew it. I knew it.
There's something to be said about sending your work to strangers versus people that you know.
Yes, it's easier. It's a lot easier. But then you can go hide.
Exactly. You don't have a face to the name. You don't know. You've never
have to see them again.
Yeah. No. And I think very, very brave. And thank goodness you did it.
I did it. It took, I really had to put my big girl boots on there. But yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And amazing that you got your dream one as well. I love that. A bit of a palate cleansing question. That is actually going to be, I would assume, a very difficult question as well. What is your all-time favorite book or author?
Oh, good grief. How dare you make me choose just one? It's like Sophie's Choice. Oh,
I hate this question so much. I love it.
Oh dear. I can rhyme off my current top 10, but I can't they have to be newish books because otherwise it's too much. Yeah. I don't know, because otherwise it's just I can't live without Agatha Christie. She has to be.
I know. But then which one do you choose? You choose all of them, don't you?
I choose it all. But I will say that, a book recently that I'm really enamored with is called Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. It's, I think it's on your bestseller list. It's on the New York Times one. It's on the Canadian one as well. And it is really an extraordinary thriller in one way, but really a study of one woman's grief. It's got a beautiful love story attached. And again, this thread of nature, people who live in nature and learn from nature. Extraordinary. Broken Country. If you liked Where the Crawdads Sing, this is your next read. You're going to be enchanted.
This question is just secretly my way of building my TBR list.
Well, there you go. I'm thrilled to add another book to your looming pile.
Yes, the looming pile. I dread to think of the looming pile. But then also, it's that thing, isn't it? So I'm going to add more. I haven't touched the other ones yet, but I will.
Doesn't matter. Just add more.
Exactly. Don't think about it. No, that sounds lovely though. I'm excited to add it to the list. Samantha says, thank you so much for joining us. I plan on reading the other books in the series because I need to add more to my TBR pile. There we go.
Thank you. I really hope you enjoy them. You know, I hope they get better and better. I always said I'm not going to write another one unless I can write better than the last. So I hope that I deliver on that promise.
I love that. That's such a nice way to look at it as well.
Well, the opposite is no fun for readers or writers, let me tell you.
I feel like when you start writing and you know that it's not as good, it's always a shame. Yeah, no, I love them. I'm very excited to read this new one that's in the works. I've only got maybe 2-3 years to wait. 2 years to go. Time will fly by.
Well, anyhow, you've got a big pile of books to read in the meantime.
So. I'll read Broken Country in that time, surely.
Absolutely.
Do you tend to read reviews or do you tend to avoid them?
I'll read the big ones because they're unavoidable. But I don't do a deep dive into reviews. I find it a very perilous place. You know, it can steal your joy and your momentum. So I'm always grateful to the writers who reach out to me and tell me their thoughts, whether those, or the readers rather, whether those are positive or not. But I don't seek that out. You know, I want to get validation from the process of putting words on a page. And if I do that well enough, then hopefully readers will like what I put out there, but not everyone will, and that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, I find, you know, the more book clubs I go to and whatnot, it is so interesting how varying reviews are. I know that we had a book not too long ago that was very much lots of 5s and lots of 2s. There was not really any in between. And I think it just goes to show that you aren't going to please everybody, but there are people who absolutely adore it.
Absolutely. I write for my readers.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not writing for the ones who aren't going to like me.
No, why would you?
I often tell people, if you're really, really into police procedurals, I am not the writer for you.
Yeah.
This is not what you're going to be stepping into in this cozy series. This is not what this is. If you want reality, there are lots of really great writers out there who will do it incredibly well. And I am not one of them.
No, I love that. I love when people read, especially cozy crime, and go, oh, well, this would never happen in real life. And it's like, well, that's kind of the point. Okay.
It's like saying Star Trek is too unreal.
I know.
Well, yeah. It's just not for you, right? Like, it's okay.
No. I love the idea of writing for your readers because that's the only way. Surely that's the only way to do it. And I think it develops a much healthier mindset to do it that way as well.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, while recognizing that there's a plethora of different kinds of writings out there. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. That's why it's an ecosystem. Publishing and writing is an ecosystem.
Yeah, I am at the most recent book club I had. Or was it the most recent one? It was a recent one. I gave the book that we read 5 stars, and I was like, "This is the best book I think I've ever read in a long time."
Wow.
I was just in the complete right place in mind to read it. And then I got there and my friend was like, I didn't finish it. So I didn't like it. I was like,
what?
What? What do you mean?
Now, can you still be friends? That is the question.
We've managed to put it aside, just about.
That's hard. Right? That's hard. That's a hard one.
Which is, it's interesting as well, though, because our reading styles very much overlap.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a very polarizing book. How interesting.
Which I really didn't think it would be. But but yeah, it's just another case of you really do just people like things and people don't like things. Yeah. Have any like hotel employees reached out to you about stories that they've had? Have they?
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I'll get emails from people who have worked in a hotel most often as maids, but not only. And that is always so much fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They'll point to something in the book and they'll say, this reminded me of when, and then tell their little story. And it's just so wonderful, right?
Oh, I love that. I was hoping that the answer would be yes. I would have been really disappointed. It was no, I don't think so.
Oh, it's definitely.
Yeah.
Like somebody once told me they found a guinea pig under somebody's bed. Like, yeah, while the cleaning. Okay, then just bring your pets to the hotel.
How would you think that you could hide that though?
I have no answers. I only have questions.
We'll put it under the bed so the maid doesn't see it.
Right.
Okay. Sure. What do you do when you're not writing?
I dance. I love to dance.
Fun.
Yeah.
Any particular type of dancing?
Salsa, actually.
Ooh.
So I like Latin dances. So the great thing about dancing is it's a language, and I'm good at language, but it's not a language that uses words.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of words in my work. So it's nice to turn them off and do something that's related but entirely different.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also just nice to go out and be a little bit free for a while.
Yes.
I find dancing so freeing. I can't dance for toffee, but I do enjoy it.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to be the best at it to like it.
Exactly. It's something I would like to do more of, I think. I feel like there's so much in life that you always go, oh, I wish I did that more. But why don't you just do it more?
Just do it more. Yes. Yeah. Well, it takes some determination to make the time and to make it happen, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's nothing more. My inspirational quote has been ruined by my stumbling.
You make a good gran, you know?
I think I would. I can't wait to be a gran. There's nothing worth investing in more than in yourself.
There you go. That is very grand. You did it.
Thank you. It took a while, but we did get there.
You got there. Totally.
I've got 50 years. Maybe I'll be a good nan.
I think you're well on your way. You've got the old soul. You got the sayings.
Yeah. Nearly there. All I need is children and then grandchildren.
2 decades and you're on.
Exactly. I'm ready. My resume is written already. Is there anything that you would like to ask your readers? Or what is a question that you tend to want to know the most?
I guess I always love to know what moved them about Molly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I wrote her, I thought she was such a personal character to me. And the greatest discovery from this series is seeing that, no, she's universal. Yeah. And I think my readers have taught me just how universal she is. That's not something that I knew, you know, and I guess, you know, of course, we've all had that feeling of not belonging. We've all felt like the social idiot in the room, the wallflower who, you know, puts her foot in her mouth all the time, who doesn't know how to make friends. You know, we've all had that feeling of being charmed by a serial charmer who doesn't turn out to be that prince. You know, of awkwardness, and all of those things are actually way, way more universal than I realized. And so you know, when readers, you know, tell me that they are like Molly, they see themselves in Molly, or maybe they see a loved one in Molly, that is always illuminating to me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it's the thing, isn't it, where even if you don't necessarily see yourself in Molly, you know someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think she is it's interesting, isn't it, because while being so unique, she is so universal. And I think what's unique is having her be the main character, and seeing that and feeling how nice it is to see it from that perspective, because you really don't get it very often.
Exactly.
When you know so many people that are like that, even like as a reader you might be like it yourself, and to see that as a book written from the perspective of someone like you or someone you know is so refreshing. I feel like I need to do a count for how many times I've said refreshing. today. I said it quite a lot. No, I truly, truly mean it. I think it is just such a nice book, and the characters are lovely. The ones that are meant to be lovely are lovely. The ones who aren't lovely are not lovely.
Oh, they are.
No, they're awful.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah, but we've all met someone like it.
Well, this is it, right? And
Yeah.
people make their choices, right? And I try to
Yeah.
show a spectrum of really good people who make excellent moral choices.
Yeah.
Real narcissists and self-obsessed people who see the world as something to be eaten and others as something to be consumed.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few people in between, and over time, as we read the series, people who are capable of great change. And certainly in The Maid's Secret, the last book in the series, we see Gran navigate that. She wasn't always good. She learned to be good. She chose to be good. And that is the hardest choice a person can make.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you've known one way for your whole life. It's beautiful. I love that. It's really, really true to life while also being fiction. And I think that is one of the nicest ways to escape the world that it can be, because you recognize everything, you're in a familiar place, and yet it is also fresh and also exciting because you don't know what's going to happen. Much like life.
Much like that's the strange thing, is that fiction can sometimes be more truthful than reality.
Exactly. Highlight things we didn't even know. It was there in front of our faces the whole time.
Yep.
Also, I wanted to mention how pretty the covers are of the books. Aren't they stunning?
They are.
Was the book always, so originally, was it always The Maid? Or did you have a working title for it?
It was always The Maid.
Amazing.
Some other titles for the books after had changed over time, but it was always The Maid, and it stuck being The Maid. And I love these covers from Harper Fiction. They did such a gorgeous job. For me, something that was important was that we got that classic mystery feel, something shown and something hidden at the same time. And I think they're really clever, beautiful designs.
Definitely. Did you have much say in them at all, or?
They were really good. They you know, obviously the designers were the geniuses behind things, but they listened carefully to my feedback, and we were able to figure out a unique look that really branded the whole series.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. It is so nice to see the book. So seeing like The Maid's Secret, you knew it was immediately part of the same series, and yeah, very, very nice. I love it when it's so distinct while also having its own characteristics.
Yes.
A bit of a fun one. If Molly could dress the room of any celebrity, who do you think would be the most interesting?
So I'm not sure I understand the question.
If she was in charge of their room at the hotel.
Oh, I see. I'm like, dress a room.
Yeah.
Okay, so if so she's in charge of a celebrity's room. And what's the
who do you think would be the most interesting
for her? Oh my goodness. Well, she would choose somebody that wouldn't be interesting maybe to most people, but would be interesting to her.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So I don't know, like Maggie Smith. You know, she choose somebody like that.
Yeah.
She'd treat them like they were the biggest, you know, idol and superstar ever. Not that she isn't. She's quite. Yeah. She was quite formidable, but to her that would be everything.
Yeah.
And she would like set out the tea just so, and have little biscuits.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Towels. Yeah.
And everybody deserves to have a maid like Molly.
Oh yeah.
The room would just be spick and span and spotless and so nice. Yeah. Layla says, have you ever considered writing the same story from another character's point of view? If so, who? And if you had to, who would you choose?
Well, I feel like I did that. I feel like I did that with the final book, The Maid's Secret, because for the first time ever, we get a new narrator beyond Molly. We do hear from Molly, and we get to hear Gran in her own voice. So I always, from the very beginning, thought, okay, well, there could be spin-offs here and other voices I pursue, but in the end, I think those are the two voices that really deserve their own, you know, their own narratives.
Say if The Maid was written again and you had to choose a different character, who would you want to be the focus of it?
I think it would end in a very bad book. Because if it's not about her, everything starts to fall apart. You know, you could write a fairly wicked novel, I suppose, about Rodney, and it would be a police procedural, perhaps.
Yes.
It would be a nasty look at the inner workings of dastardly deeds within a hotel.
Yeah.
It would be very masculine.
Yes, definitely.
And we would be in a different genre entirely.
Oh, that's so interesting, isn't it? You don't consider that, because obviously they're part of the same world. How different the stories would be if they were from someone else. It does become a completely different book. That's so interesting. I'm trying to think of like all the different characters and what that would be and what genres they would end up as. That's so funny. Oh, I like that.
Cheryl, if it was her,
I would not want
to have something closer to Gone Girl, right? Like,
Cheryl, Cheryl can stay below.
Yeah, I think I don't think we need to hear from her for a whole book. No. I don't want to make people murderous.
No, definitely not. Samantha says, I was angry at Molly for being sucked in by Rodney, but then realized I've had my fair share of Rodneys in my life. No one makes excellent moral choices.
Yes, unfortunately, that is the case. But in order to grow, we have to make a few mistakes. And Molly definitely does that. And we sit there watching, going, please, please figure it out. And no, she doesn't. But eventually she does. It just takes her a while.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's interesting, because when you first see him, you are kind of like, oh, who is this guy? Oh, he's like charming and this. And then you kind of go, oh, yeah, okay. And then you're like, okay, Molly, time. Come on.
Takes her a little while.
Yeah, the flags are waving. It's bright red. Bright red.
Yeah.
So do you have any release day rituals when it comes to releasing your books?
No, that is impossible, because I've always have so many things to do on that day. I usually have events. So on Pub Day next week for The Maid's Secret, I have 2 events in another city, and one is a high tea, which I very much look forward to. Yeah, so I'll have a high tea in the afternoon, and then in the evening we will do sort of a stage show that is geared to embarrass me probably in every way known to humankind, all about Nita Prose.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know what I'm stepping into. It's a bit of a mystery. It's going to be wacky and wild. We'll see.
That's so funny.
But But, you know, the fun part is the crowd. I cannot wait to meet my readers. I cannot wait for readers to read this book, so I'm not alone in it anymore.
I know. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be incredible. I'm very excited to hear from Gran. Very, very excited to hear from Gran. Fove says, some characters are written to both love and hate, but Giselle, I wasn't sure whether to like her or not.
Well, that is a very good question. And, you know, when I started writing her, I hated her. I thought she was going to be another villain, and she wouldn't stay that way. Whenever I put her in a room with Molly, she would do things that would show me and reveal her character. And they were always surprising. She didn't do the things I thought she was going to do. And I suddenly realized I was actually judging her quite harshly. You know, I saw her as only arm candy, as the kind of manipulative woman who targets men to begin with to take over her care, but also is willing to do just about anything to other women in order to usurp them. But as we learn through the course of the books, she starts to grow too.
Yeah.
And she makes some choices that, you know, by the end, hopefully surprise you a little bit and show you that even somebody who has only known one way of being her entire life might, you know, suddenly choose to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. She's also partial to accomplice assault.
Yes.
Yeah, big red flag. However, by the end, I was like, you know what? I see. The thing is, I think with a book, I love the mean lady. I always do. It's my crux. I love a mean lady. But so I was just hoping that, you know, she was mean for the right. She wasn't even mean. That's the thing. It was perpetuated meanness. We're no better than the rest of them in the book.
No.
It's like looking in a mirror. But yeah, no, I love Giselle. Not as much as Juan Manuel, but I did love Giselle. And I genuinely don't think I could pick a favorite character. I think they were all so differently brilliant, and so unique and so familiar at the same time that, yeah, I don't think I think if I carried on rereading it, I would choose someone new each time.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you for writing such amazing characters. I really am very excited about The Maid's Secret. I think it will be grand. Haha.
I got it. I
thought I'd slip that in there.
That was a very Molly pun, by the way.
Thank you very much. I was very proud of it. Are there anything after the project that you're currently working on? Is there anything in your mind that you would like to do?
I have no idea. You know, but the very thought of like a runway after this is both very daunting and hugely exciting. I don't feel like I'm at the end of my ideas. I feel like I'm at the beginning. Every time I start a new project, I have beginner's mind. I feel like a newbie all over again, like I know nothing. And it's so exciting and terrifying to be in that place.
Oh, I love that.
So I have no idea. After the one that I just described, what I will do next, I don't know. But I think I have the bug. I think I'm going to keep writing.
Good. That's what we love to hear. I'm so happy to hear that. Please do keep writing. I think it's so nice to hear about people who love their work and love what they do.
It's a privilege to love your work.
It is, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're also very privileged that you do love your work as well. I think we'll just have to have a screening, hopefully maybe have a screening at some point. Who knows? We don't.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Enjoy that.
No, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see where The Maid goes and see everything that's in store for that, but also so thrilled about the new works that are coming out as well. I think I couldn't imagine stopping reading your work.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. I think your work is beautiful, and I genuinely can't thank you enough for coming and speaking to us tonight. It's been so wonderful. I've had such a lovely time. And yeah.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for joining for this lovely chat, for the great questions. I can see all the hearts coming on the page, and let me tell you, I'm sending them right back.
I can't believe how fast time's gone. I feel like it's completely flown. Yeah, thank you so much, Nita, and best of luck for launch day.
Thank you.
Sending all of our love and well wishes your way, and the best of luck with everything. The best of luck for all of the plans that we can't yet talk about as well. That hopefully we'll be able to talk about in a year or two.
I'll come back and we'll have a chat.
Let's do it. Amazing. Well, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. What time is it where you are?
It is 4 o'clock, so I'm a bit behind you folks. But yeah, so
perfect. Amazing afternoon.
Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.